Hello, and welcome back to more DML. So today I wanted to go through the required elements for levels 4, 5, and 6 in the current Golden Pyramid Part 1 event. So the reason that this is important is because if you don't have the elements that you need for these levels, it makes progressing so much harder. Mainly in terms of the fights, because for example, this is the map for level 4, and again, this is all found on the DML Wiki. We always appreciate the work that everyone on the DML Wiki does. But you can sort of see the prices for every single tile, and more specifically, you can see where all of the fights are on this map. So, for level 4, on the left of the image here, it shows you what battles you're going to be going against, so which dragons, and what elements you're allowed to use. So, for level 4, there is a massive range of different elements that you can use, but later on, it ends up being 4 elements only. And the last one, for example, on location 5 on the near right, is fire, wind, metal, and shadow. So wind is the main element, wind and earth mainly, for level 4 here, but if you see, for example, that you don't have fire, wind, metal, or shadow, then what you can do is we know that 5 is down in this bottom hand corner here, so what you can do is you can avoid going down that path, if that makes sense. So instead of going straight to 5, you can choose one of the other paths if, say, you don't have those elements, and going and doing those first, making your way through the other levels, and then coming back to do these last. So the reason you want to do that is because even though the RNG has been taken out of these events, so you don't have to progress as quickly as possible because then you get more event currency, but obviously if you finish level 6 in the event, you get anubis as the reward. So you don't want to be collecting every single chest on every level as you go, because if you do that, you might miss out on getting the Ra Dragon pieces, and you might miss out on getting Anubis himself. So even though technically there's no great benefit to progressing as quickly as possible, you still want to find the key in level 6 ASAP, and then come back and get the Ra Dragon pieces. So if you do want to get Anubis at the bare minimum of the divines that you get, that is your general idea of what you want to be doing. So then we have level 5, which is another one of those mini levels, and the first fight you can use any element you want. For the other 2 fights, there's no way to avoid them. You can skip them for very little currency as well, but you can do those fights using earth, wind, metal, energy, and divine. So it's still kind of a low amount of elements that you can use, but quite a lot of dragons have divine. Obviously, if you were a part of the previous events, a lot of people have wind or energy on average, so very simple little level. Level 5 is obviously not the main issue. Then we have level 6. So there are a couple of fights on level 6 where you can use all of the elements, but then we have these in between levels here. So earth, wind, plant, energy, fire, wind, plant, light, earth, wind, water, and shadow. So again, wind and earth seem to be the main elements for this part of the event. So if you have a dragon with either of those elements, you are set. But the level 6 map, you can see, is huge. Absolutely huge. There's gigantic statues and, you know, a massive stone tablet and everything on this level. But to skip fights on level 6, it is 2,500 event currency. And that means if you want a really good shot of getting all the Ra Dragon pieces, you really do not want to be skipping any of these fights, because there's a fight in the center, there's 3 fights in the top left, there's fights up in the top right, and if you don't have the elements that you need for this level, so, you know, mainly the wind and the earth and that, and, you know, there's quite a lot of plant that can be used in this level as well, but if you don't have any of those to use on your team, in some cases you are much better off just going around the fights. So obviously I'm not up to level 6 myself in the event yet, so I can't show you in-game, but if you just find yourself not being able to do even a singular one of the fights on level 6, you are better just going around. So, that's the main rule. Do not skip the fights on level 6. Go around the fights on level 6. I mean, there's the center fight, which I don't think you really have any choice but to complete, but I'm pretty sure you can use any element in that fight anyway, so that's not really going to be an issue. All the other fights you can mostly avoid apart from chests number 2 and 4 there, so I would suggest going to 1, 5, and 3 first, and then, if you have the elements, going to 2 and 4. So, it does require quite a lot of pre-planning if you want to have a really good shot, but at the end of the day, if your team is evenly leveled, you have a lot of dragons that, again, are around, I don't know, level 30, you have a bunch of dragons at level 80, whatever the case is for you, as long as your team is evenly leveled, these castle events really shouldn't be much of a problem. It's if you only have a singular dragon that's fully leveled up, that is the case when the castle events become a lot more difficult than they need to be. So I know I have gone through that concept quite a lot of times in the past, but I do just want to go through it again for anyone that maybe, wasn't around for when I explained it back then. So, I've always said that the best thing that you can do in DML is progress in the map as quickly as possible, because the further you get in the map, the more rewards you get for your side quest battles, your blue map fights and stuff like that. So ideally, if you want to get to as high of a level and get as many resources as possible, you want to go through the map as fast as you can. And the best way to do that is to have one dragon that is a super high level, and they'll just sort of steamroll all the fights on their own. But the issue with that is during things like the current Divine event, because at that point, that singular dragon is going to screw you over during these special events. So, you have to decide at some point, do you care about collecting new dragons, like the dragons out of the Divine event and stuff like that? Or do you find it more important to progress quicker in the game? Because what I did is I used to level up my dragons evenly, but then I got to a point where progress was so slow, I was getting so bored, and then I basically used my autumn dragon to carry me through most of the endgame fights on his own, and I did make progress very nice and quick, but then I found a lot of the castle events very difficult. And I did that to myself, so I have no one else to blame, and I was aware that I was doing it, but it really did make the castle events a pain. So instead of me being able to miss like 2 days worth of resets and still finish the event, I could only miss like a couple of resets, because I was having to skip fights all the time. So again, a lot of people are aware of this, but if you're not, you have to make that choice. What is most important to you? Progressing quickly or collecting as many dragons as possible? Because it's still possible to do the castle events even with a singular high level dragon, but it depends on what you do in your day-to-day life, really. If you are really busy and you barely finish events as it is, if you do that to yourself, there's a good chance that you may end up missing out on dragons in special events like this one in future. So, if you are struggling to do the fights, your team is really uneven in levels and that, go ahead, do your daily fights as many times as you can during the event, and go and level up another dragon to be around about the same level as your main guys, or as close as you can possibly get, because if you can get another dragon within a couple of levels of your other main team, but it has the elements that you need for the event, then you have probably saved yourself during the event time. It's just, it's one of those things that I wish we didn't have to create our teams around this. Like, I've been saying for years, I wish that they would change the way that that works, so that then everyone can just you know, pick whatever dragons they want and enjoy their team without having to worry that it's hindering their chances during events and stuff. But we can't really do that at this point, so as long as you're aware of it and you know how to fix it, that should really help you out in future events. Even if you don't get Anubis in this part of the event, for example, at least then maybe you can get, I think is Isis the reward for chapter 3? I've already forgotten, but hopefully at least if you don't even get Anubis, maybe you can get the dragon from chapter 3 of the event still. So you've still got plenty of time to at least get your hands on a singular divine, if that is your only goal. So you can use this part of the event time to, you know, fix your team up, let's say. At least to the best of your ability. So it will suck, obviously, if you miss out on any of the divines, because that means that Hathor goes out the window, but you're better off getting at least one divine rather than none out of these events. Like, don't come out the divine event getting nothing. At least get one of them, if you can. But that is mostly what I wanted to say for now. It seems like the bundle for the Ruby Scarab is going to go away in a few minutes as well. So if you did want it, I hope you've already purchased it. But I think that is everything I wanted to go through today. So, like I said, if there's anything else you want to check about progressing in the event, go and check out the DML Wiki's page on all the levels and stuff. Because not only does it let you see, you know, all of the levels and required elements, it also tells you the minimum amount of scarabs that you need to use to finish each level. So for example, level 4 you need 15,200, for level 5 you need 2,100, and to finish level 6 you need an absolute minimum of 21,000 ruby scarabs. So you can sort of work out how long that is going to take on average based off of, you know, the 2,400 pool that you can get every 6 hours. And then on top of that, they do also tell you how much or how many scarabs you get based on the food that you plant. So 6-hour food is perfect for these events, perfectly timed with the event schedule, and it fully depletes the pools. And then with breeding dragons, I've been through this so many times, but no breed actually fully depletes the timer, because, you know, we get a reset every 6 hours, but if you breed a 6-hour breed, you only get 200 scarabs. So, like I keep saying, with the breeding during these events, normally it's better to just breed something like the demonic, so fire and shadow works really well for that, or the classical dragon, whatever one you want to go through. 10 hours to 12 hours is normally the best one for fully depleting the pools, but you will be going way over that pool timer. So just breed whatever the heck you wanted to breed anyway, because like, if you wanted to get the moon rabbit dragon but you're like, oh, but I might ruin my chances during the event, literally don't even worry about it, because no matter what you do, you will never be able to fully deplete that breeding dragon section. So, you know, don't worry about it. Breed whatever you want. Just, you know, if you've got epics that you want to breed, that's really good, because then the timers are going to be like 10 hours plus, which means you're going to be depleting the 400 points for the breeding section. So I think that is everything that I really wanted to go through in terms of, you know, mini tips and, you know, talking about how annoying these events can be if your team is not, I guess, created in the correct manner. But we are getting a new reset in 1 minute, so I'm sure everyone's going to be logging back in soon. So thank you very much for joining me today. Hope this helped, and until next time, I will see you then.